Victoria Sterling grabbed the coffee cup from her assistant's hand and hurled it against the wall. Ceramic exploded. Hot liquid ran down the glass in brown streaks. "Get out!" Her assistant fled. The door slammed. Victoria turned to face 14 executives frozen around the conference table. Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled every corner of the room. "Someone in this room just cost me $50 million. I'm going to find out who, and when I do, I won't just fire them. I will make sure they never work in this industry again." Then the door opened without a knock. A janitor walked in, and everything changed. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The coffee dripped down the glass wall like tears. Victoria Sterling stood at the head of the table, her chest heaving, her hands still shaking from the throw. She never lost control. Never. But this morning something had snapped. Robert Chen, Chief Financial Officer, spoke first. His voice cracked. "Victoria, if you'll let me explain—" "Explain." Victoria spun toward him. "Explain how you signed the Henderson contract without my authorization. Explain how you committed this company to liability clauses that could bankrupt us if they default." The deadline was, "I don't care about deadlines." Victoria slammed her palm on the table. A water glass tipped over. No one moved to catch it. "I care about control. I care about knowing exactly what happens in my company. And you took that from me." Robert's hands trembled. 11 years he had worked here. 11 years of navigating her moods, surviving her purges, watching colleagues disappear. Now it was his turn. "I was trying to save the deal," he whispered. "You were trying to be me." Victoria leaned across the table until her face was inches from his. "You are not me. You will never be me. And if this deal goes bad, I will personally ensure that your name becomes a cautionary tale they teach in business schools." Robert's eyes filled with tears. A grown man, 53 years old, crying in front of his colleagues. Victoria straightened up and turned away from him like he was already gone. "Thomas, the presentation, now." Thomas Park, the IT director, fumbled with his tablet. His fingers were slick with sweat. He pressed the button for the projector. Nothing happened. The screen stayed dark. Victoria went still. "Thomas." "I'm working on it." Thomas was on his feet, rushing to the projector. "It was working this morning. I tested it myself at 6 a.m. I swear to God it was perfect. And yet here we are. Just give me 30 seconds. Tokyo calls in 8 minutes. 8 minutes, Thomas, and you're asking for 30 seconds. Thomas pulled cables, reconnected them. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped a cord twice. Margaret Sullivan, VP of Operations, loosened her collar. She looked like she might be sick. David Wright, head of legal, stared at the table, his jaw tight. His pen gripped so hard his knuckles were white. Nobody helped Thomas. Nobody could. In Victoria Sterling's world, you saved yourself or you drowned. "It's not responding." Thomas's voice was high, desperate. "There might be a firmware issue, or the port could be—" "Stop talking." Thomas froze. Victoria walked toward him slowly, each step deliberate, each step a countdown. "Do you know what my father told me before he died?" Thomas shook his head. His back was against the wall now, literally. "He told me that trust is a luxury. He told me that the only person you can rely on is yourself. He told me that the moment you depend on someone else, you give them the power to destroy you." She stopped 1 foot away from him. "I trusted you, Thomas. I trusted you to do one simple thing. Turn on a projector. And you failed." "I didn't fail. The machine." "Machines don't fail on their own. People fail. People get lazy. People cut corners. People forget that excellence isn't optional, it's required." Thomas was crying now too. The second man she had broken this morning. Victoria felt nothing. Or told herself she felt nothing. The door opened. No knock, no warning. Just the soft click of a handle turning, and then a man walked in. Gray uniform, Cleaning cart. Mop handle sticking up at an angle. A name stitched on his chest pocket. Marcus. He stopped just inside the doorway. Victoria turned to face this new intrusion, this new target for her fury. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus looked at her. Then at Thomas pressed against the wall with tears streaming down his face. Then at Robert still sitting at the table with his head bowed. Then at the coffee dripping down the glass wall. "Wrong room," Marcus said. "I'll come back." He started to turn his cart around. "Stop." Marcus stopped. Victoria moved toward him. "You walked into my meeting. My private executive meeting. Without knocking. Without permission. On what planet is that acceptable?" "Like I said, wrong room. My apologies." "Your apologies." Victoria laughed. It was a sharp sound like glass breaking. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes, ma'am. You're Victoria Sterling." "And do you know what happens to employees who interrupt me?" "I can guess." "Then you should be terrified right now." Marcus was quiet for a moment. He looked at her with steady eyes, not defiant, not aggressive, just calm. Impossibly calm. "No, ma'am," he said. "I'm not." Victoria took another step toward him. They were close now. Close enough that she could see the gray in his hair, the lines around his eyes, the old scar on his chin that looked like it came from something painful. "Everyone is afraid of me," she said softly. "That's not arrogance, that's fact. So either you're very stupid, or you're very new. I'm new. 4th day. Then you have a lot to learn about how things work here." "Maybe so." Victoria waited for more, an apology, an excuse, some sign of submission. It didn't come. "Thomas can't fix my projector," she said finally. "Can you?" "I'm a janitor, ma'am." "That's not what I asked." Marcus glanced at the dark screen. "I've fixed a few things in my time." "Then fix it." "I will. But first nothing. Fix it now." Marcus didn't move toward the projector. Instead, he took a breath and spoke the words that would change everything. "Ma'am, before I touch your equipment, I need to say something." "You don't need to say anything. You need to do what you're told." "That man over there." Marcus nodded toward Thomas. "He's not crying because he failed. He's crying because he's being humiliated in front of everyone he works with. There's a difference." The room stopped breathing. Victoria's expression flickered surprise, then anger, then something else she buried before it could surface. "What did you just say to me?" "The machine broke. That happens. Blaming him for it doesn't fix anything. It just teaches everyone in this room to hide their mistakes instead of solving them." Margaret Sullivan made a small choking sound. David Wright's pen snapped in his grip. Victoria moved closer to Marcus. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "You are a janitor. You clean toilets. And you think you have the right to lecture me about leadership?" "No, ma'am. I don't have any rights here. I'm just telling you what I see." "And what do you see?" Marcus looked around the room slowly. At the frozen executives, at the coffee still dripping down the wall, at Thomas still crying silently against the wall. "I see a room full of smart people who are too scared to think straight. I see a man who made one mistake being treated like he committed a crime, and I see a woman who's so used to being feared that she's forgotten what respect looks like." Victoria's hand twitched. For a moment she looked like she might hit him. "You have no idea who I am." "You're right. I don't. But I know fear when I see it, and I know what it does to people. Fear keeps people sharp." "No, ma'am. Fear keeps people small. There's a difference." The silence stretched. 10 seconds. 20. Victoria and Marcus stood facing each other like two fighters waiting for the bell. Finally, Victoria spoke. Her voice was strange, controlled, but something underneath was cracking. "You should be fired for what you just said." "Probably." "You don't seem to care." "I care about keeping my job. I have a daughter to feed. 8 years old. She's the only reason I get up in the morning. Marcus paused. But I also have to live with myself. And I can't do that if I watch a man get destroyed and say nothing. Victoria's expression shifted again. The mention of a daughter had hit something. You're a single father. Yes, ma'am. My wife passed 3 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. Thank you. Marcus held her gaze. I'm not saying this to get sympathy. I'm saying it because losing her taught me something. I spent 18 months watching her die. Couldn't stop it. Couldn't control it. Couldn't do a damn thing except hold her hand and tell her I loved her. He paused. After that, everything else feels manageable, including this. Victoria was quiet. The anger in her eyes had dimmed. In its place was something else, confusion maybe. Or recognition. Your wife's death doesn't give you permission to disrespect me. No, it doesn't. But it did teach me that fear is a waste of time. We spend so much energy being afraid of what might happen. And then the worst thing happens anyway, and we realize all that fear didn't protect us. It just made us smaller while we waited. Victoria's jaw tightened. I am not afraid. Aren't you? The question hung in the air. Nobody else in the room dared to move. They were witnessing something impossible, a janitor challenging the most powerful woman in the building and somehow still standing. I built this company, Victoria said. Her voice was low and tense. I built it from nothing after my business partner stole everything I had. I was 22 years old. I had nothing but debt and a lesson I would never forget. What lesson? That trust is weakness. That the only person you can depend on is yourself. That if you want to survive in this world, you have to be harder and colder and stronger than everyone else. Marcus nodded slowly. That sounds exhausting. Victoria flinched. It was small, just a flicker, but he saw it. You don't know anything about me, she said. No, but I know what it looks like when someone's been carrying something heavy for a long time. I know what it looks like when someone builds walls so high they forget what sunlight feels like. I don't need your pity. It's not pity, it's recognition. Recognition of what? Marcus looked at her for a long moment before answering. Of someone who's scared of being hurt again. So scared that they hurt everyone else first just to stay safe. Victoria's hands were shaking. She clasped them together to hide it. Get out. Marcus didn't move. I said, get out. I'll fix your projector first. He walked past her to the equipment. Calm, unhurried, like he hadn't just spoken words that could end his career. He examined the connections, adjusted one cable, pressed 2 buttons. The screen flickered to life. Loose connection, Marcus said. Happens with older systems. Might want to have it replaced. He gathered his cart and headed for the door. Mr. Webb? He stopped. Victoria stood with her back to him, facing the now bright screen. My father died 7 years ago, heart attack. He was alone in his office at 2 in the morning, working, always working, building something he thought would last forever. She turned to face Marcus. He trusted me to protect what he built. He trusted me to be strong enough, and every single day I'm terrified that I'm not. Marcus stood in the doorway, one hand on his cart. He didn't offer comfort, didn't try to fix anything. He just listened. I've never said that out loud before, Victoria said quietly. Some things need to be said out loud. Otherwise, they eat you from the inside. Is that what happened to you? After your wife? Almost. I went dark for about 6 months. Couldn't feel anything. My daughter had to make her own breakfast, get herself to school. She was 5 years old, taking care of herself because her father was too broken to function. Marcus's voice tightened. Then one day she asked me if I was sad because she didn't make me happy anymore, and something cracked open. I realized I was so busy protecting myself from more pain that I was missing the one thing that mattered. Her. Right in front of me. Needing me. Victoria's eyes were wet. She blinked rapidly, fighting it. How did you come back from that? One day at a time. One choice at a time. Choosing to feel things even though feeling things hurt. Choosing to be present, even though being present meant facing the loss. Choosing to live instead of just survive. He paused. You built walls to protect yourself from being hurt. I understand that. But walls don't just keep pain out. They keep everything out, including the things that might actually save you. The room was silent. 14 executives sat motionless, forgotten. Victoria wiped her eyes quickly. When she spoke, her voice was almost normal again. Almost. Tokyo is calling in 2 minutes. I need to take this meeting. Yes, ma'am. We'll talk more later. It wasn't a threat. It was something else. Something she hadn't said to anyone in years. A request. Marcus nodded. I'll be around. He pushed his cart through the door and was gone. Victoria turned back to face her executives. They stared at her with expressions she had never seen before. Not fear, not submission. Something like hope. The meeting is starting, she said. Her voice was steady, but different somehow. Robert, you'll take notes. Thomas, sit down. We have work to do. Nobody mentioned the coffee still dripping down the wall. Nobody mentioned the words that had been spoken. But everyone in that room knew that something had shifted. Some foundation that had seemed permanent had developed cracks. And through those cracks, for the first time in years, a little light was getting in. That night, Victoria stayed in her office until midnight. She didn't work. She sat at her desk, staring at the photograph she kept in her drawer. Her father, her younger self. A moment, frozen in time, when she still believed that hard work and good intentions were enough to protect you from the world. She had been wrong about so many things. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to learn something new. She picked up her phone and typed a message to her assistant. Find out everything you can about Marcus Webb. Employment history, background, family, everything. Then she set the phone down and stared out at the city lights below. Somewhere out there, a janitor was going home to his 8-year-old daughter. A man with nothing who somehow had everything she was missing. Victoria Sterling did not cry. Had not cried in years. Tonight, alone in her office, she let herself feel the weight of all those years. And she wondered if it was possible to become someone different, or if she was already too far gone to find her way back. The file landed on Victoria's desk at 7 the next morning. Her assistant Jennifer stood nervously by the door. She had worked for Victoria for 3 years and had never seen her request personal information on a janitor before. Everything's in there, Jennifer said. Employment history, military records, personal background. Do you want me to summarize? No, leave it. Jennifer hesitated. Is he in trouble? Should I alert security? Victoria looked up. Why would he be in trouble? I just assumed. After yesterday. People are talking. What are they saying? Jennifer's face went pale. She realized too late that she had stepped into dangerous territory. Nothing specific, just that something happened in the quarterly meeting. That someone spoke out of turn. Someone. A janitor. That's what I heard. Victoria studied her assistant for a long moment. Jennifer looked like she was calculating the fastest route to the exit. People talk too much in this building, Victoria said finally. Don't you have work to do? Jennifer fled. Victoria opened the file. Marcus David Webb, age 51, born in Detroit. Father worked at the Ford plant until it closed. Mother was a school teacher. Marcus enlisted in the Army at 18, served 8 years, 2 tours overseas. Honorable discharge, married Sarah Mitchell in 1998. 1 daughter, Emma, born 2016. Sarah Webb died of ovarian cancer in 2021. 18 months from diagnosis to death. Marcus left his job as a construction foreman to care for her. After she passed, he took whatever work he could find. Night shifts mostly. Jobs that let him be home during the day when his daughter needed him. Victoria stared at the photograph attached to his employment application. It was a standard headshot, the kind taken at a DMV or a passport office. But something in his eyes caught her attention. Not sadness exactly. Something deeper. The look of a man who had seen the worst and decided to keep going anyway. She closed the file and picked up her phone. "Jennifer, get me the head of building services." 20 minutes later, a nervous man named Gerald Patterson sat across from her desk. He had managed the cleaning and maintenance staff for 15 years and had never once been summoned to the executive floor. "Mr. Webb," Victoria said without preamble, "tell me about him." Gerald shifted in his chair. "Is there a problem?" "Just answer the question." "He's good, reliable, shows up early, stays late, never complains. The other staff like him." "Has he caused any issues?" Gerald hesitated. "Mr. Patterson, I asked you a question." "There was an incident last week, nothing major. One of the security guards was giving a young cleaning woman a hard time, making comments. Marcus stepped in." "What kind of comments?" "The kind that get people fired if HR hears about them." Victoria's jaw tightened. "And Marcus stepped in?" "Yes, ma'am. Told the guard to back off. The guard didn't like that. Got in Marcus's face. I thought there was going to be a fight." "What happened?" "Marcus just stood there, calm, didn't raise his voice, didn't make threats. Just looked at the guy and said something like, 'You can swing first if you want, but you should know I spent 8 years in the army and I've got nothing left to lose, so think about whether this is really worth it.'" Gerald almost smiled at the memory. The guard backed down, transferred to a different building the next day. Didn't even file a complaint. Victoria leaned back in her chair. "Why didn't I hear about this?" "It was handled internally. Didn't seem necessary to escalate." "Everything gets escalated to me. Everything." Gerald swallowed. "Yes, ma'am. I apologize. It won't happen again." Victoria waved her hand. "That's all." Gerald practically ran for the door. Victoria sat alone, thinking about a man who stepped between bullies and their victims. A man who had nothing left to lose and somehow used that emptiness as a shield. She thought about the words he had spoken in the conference room. "Fear keeps people small." Was she small? She didn't feel small. She felt powerful, in control, untouchable. But power and size weren't the same thing, were they? You could be powerful and still be shrinking inside, still be disappearing into the walls you built around yourself. Her phone buzzed. Meeting in 10 minutes. Another day of decisions and demands, and people who looked at her like she might explode at any moment. Victoria stood up and straightened her jacket. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel ready. The second encounter happened that evening. Victoria stayed late as always. The building emptied around her. By 8 o'clock, only the cleaning crews remained, moving through the floors like ghosts. She was reviewing contracts when she heard the squeak of cartwheels in the hallway. A moment later, Marcus appeared in her doorway. He stopped when he saw her. "Didn't expect anyone to be here," he said. "I can come back." "No, come in." Marcus hesitated, then pushed his cart through the door. He moved toward the trash can in the corner, going about his work like this was any other office on any other night. Victoria watched him. "I read your file today," she said. Marcus didn't look up from emptying the trash. "I figured you would." "You served in the army." "Yes, ma'am. 2 tours." "That's right. Iraq. Afghanistan. First tour was 2003. Second was 2005. Victoria was quiet for a moment. "My father tried to enlist during Vietnam. They rejected him because of his eyesight. He always felt guilty about that, like he'd missed something important." Marcus tied off the trash bag and set it aside. "War isn't something to feel guilty about missing. It's not noble. It's just ugly." "But it changed you." "Everything changes you. War just does it faster." He moved to dust her bookshelf. Victoria noticed that he was careful, methodical. He treated each object with respect, even though they meant nothing to him. "Your wife," she said. "How did you meet her?" Marcus paused. His hand rested on a glass paperweight. "High school. We were 17. She was the smartest person I ever knew. Got a scholarship to Michigan State. I was headed nowhere fast. She could have done so much better. But she chose you." She chose me. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. I spent 30 years trying to figure out why. Never did get a good answer. Maybe she saw something in you that you couldn't see in yourself. Marcus looked at her. It was the first time in the conversation that he seemed surprised. That's a strange thing for you to say. Why? Because you don't strike me as someone who believes in hidden potential. You seem more like a results-only kind of person. Victoria felt something twist in her chest. He was right. She was exactly that kind of person. When had that started? My father believed in potential, she said. He hired people nobody else would hire. Ex-convicts, recovering addicts, people with gaps in their resumes that made other employers nervous. He said everyone deserves a second chance. Did they live up to his faith? Some did, some didn't. Victoria paused. The ones who didn't almost destroyed the company. Twice. And you learned from that? I learned that faith is expensive. Results are cheaper. Marcus finished with the bookshelf and moved toward the window. He sprayed cleaner on the glass and began to wipe it down. Your father sounds like a good man. He was the best man I ever knew. And you're afraid you can't live up to him. Victoria's breath caught. The words hit too close to something she never examined. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She stood up from her desk and walked toward the window. They stood side by side looking out at the city lights below. 40 floors, Victoria said. I can see almost the entire city from here. Sometimes I stand here at night and try to count the lights. All those people, all those lives, and none of them know I exist. Is that what you want to be known? I used to think so. I used to think that if I built something big enough, impressive enough, people would have to see me, would have to respect me. But now, she trailed off. Now I'm not sure what I wanted was respect. Maybe I just wanted to matter. To someone. To anyone. Marcus stopped cleaning. He turned to look at her fully. You matter to a lot of people. Thousands of employees depend on this company. Depend on you. They depend on the paychecks. That's not the same thing. Maybe not. But it's not nothing either. Victoria was quiet. Outside, a plane blinked across the dark sky, carrying people to places she would never go. I've never talked to anyone like this, she said finally. Not since my father died. Maybe not even then. Why me? I don't know. She turned to face him. Maybe because you're the only person in this building who isn't afraid of me. Maybe because you have nothing to gain by lying. Or maybe because you looked at me yesterday and saw something that no one else sees. What do you think I saw? Victoria swallowed. A scared little girl pretending to be a monster. Marcus didn't deny it, didn't confirm it either. He just looked at her with those steady eyes. Monsters are made, he said quietly. They're not born. Whatever you've become, you became it for a reason. That doesn't make it right, but it doesn't make you hopeless either. How do you know I'm not hopeless? Because hopeless people don't ask the questions you're asking. They don't let janitors talk to them like I'm talking to you right now. They don't stand at windows wondering if they matter. He picked up his supplies. You're not a monster, Miss Sterling. You're just someone who forgot that strength and cruelty aren't the same thing. And forgetting isn't the same as losing. You can still remember, if you want to. He headed for the door. Mr. Webb? He stopped. Your daughter, Emma. What is she like? Marcus turned. The mention of his daughter softened something in his face. She's everything good that I'm not. Smart like her mother. Kind in ways I can't explain. She makes friends with everybody. Kids, adults, stray cats, doesn't matter. She sees the best in people even when they don't deserve it. She sounds wonderful. She is. She's also stubborn as hell. Gets that from me. He paused. She asked about my job yesterday. I told her I work in a big building downtown. She asked if the people there are nice. What did you tell her? I told her I was still figuring that out. Victoria felt something crack inside her. A wall she had spent years building developed another fissure. "And what have you figured out?" Marcus considered the question. "I've figured out that people are complicated, that the same person can be cruel to one person and kind to another, that fear makes us do ugly things and pain makes us afraid, and that sometimes the people who seem the hardest are really just the most hurt." He met her eyes. "I've figured out that you're not the villain everyone thinks you are. You're just someone who built armor so thick you forgot there was a person underneath." Victoria's eyes burned. She blinked rapidly, refusing to let the tears fall. "How do I take off armor I've been wearing for 12 years? One piece at a time, slowly, carefully, and it'll hurt like hell because armor protects you and hurts you at the same time. Removing it means feeling things you've been hiding from." "I don't know if I can do that." "You're already doing it. This conversation right here. You're not yelling at me. You're not threatening me. You're being human. That's the first piece of armor right there." Victoria wiped her eyes quickly. "I have a reputation to maintain. If people see me like this." "Like what? Like a person?" "Maybe that's exactly what they need to see. Fear keeps this company running. Fear keeps this company surviving. There's a difference between surviving and thriving. You want people to give you their best. Give them a reason to want to, not because they're scared of what happens if they don't, because they're inspired by what happens if they do." Victoria stared at him. This janitor, this widower, this man who cleaned toilets and emptied trash and somehow understood things that business school never taught her. "Where did you learn all of this?" "From my wife. From my daughter. From 20 years of making mistakes and trying to do better. From watching people and paying attention to what actually works instead of what's supposed to work. And what actually works. Treating people like they matter. Listening more than you talk. Admitting when you're wrong. Saying thank you. Saying sorry. The simple stuff that everyone knows but hardly anyone does." Victoria laughed. It came out broken, almost like a sob. "The simple stuff. I've built a billion-dollar empire and I can't do the simple stuff." "Then start tomorrow. Pick one thing. One person. One moment where you choose differently than you would have chosen before. That's it. That's your advice. That's it. Change isn't complicated, it's just hard. And the only way through hard things is one step at a time." Marcus pushed his cart toward the door. "Good night, Miss Sterling." "Victoria," he stopped. "My name is Victoria. You don't have to call me Miss Sterling." Marcus nodded slowly. "Good night, Victoria." He disappeared into the hallway. The squeak of his cart wheels faded into silence. Victoria stood alone in her office, surrounded by the empire she had built and the emptiness she had created. She thought about armor and fear and little girls pretending to be monsters. And she thought about tomorrow. One thing, one person, one moment. Maybe that was all it took. The next morning, Victoria arrived at her usual time. Coffee waiting exactly 190 degrees. Assistant hovering nervous as always. But something was different. Victoria stopped at Jennifer's desk instead of walking past. "Jennifer." Her assistant looked up, bracing for criticism. "Yes, ma'am." "You've been working for me for 3 years." "Yes, ma'am, 3 years next month." "I don't know anything about you. Are you married? Do you have children? Where did you grow up?" Jennifer's mouth fell open. In 3 years, Victoria Sterling had never asked her a personal question. I'm engaged. Getting married in June. I grew up in Toledo. No children yet, but we're hoping—" She trailed off, clearly confused about why any of this mattered. Victoria nodded. "Congratulations on the engagement." "Thank you." "That wasn't sarcasm. I mean it. Congratulations." Jennifer looked like she might faint. Victoria walked into her office and closed the door. Through the glass, she could see her assistant staring after her with an expression of pure bewilderment. Within minutes, Jennifer was on her phone, probably texting everyone she knew about the impossible thing that had just happened. Victoria sat down at her desk and smiled. One thing. One person. One moment. It wasn't much. But it was a start. The changes came slowly at first. Small things that most people didn't notice. Victoria said good morning to the receptionist. She thanked the mailroom clerk who delivered her packages. She let Robert Chen finish a sentence without interrupting. But some people noticed. Thomas Park, the IT director, came to her office 3 days later with a proposal for upgrading the building's technology infrastructure. He was shaking when he walked in. "Miss Sterling, I know you're busy, but I wanted to present some ideas." "Sit down, Thomas." He sat. He looked like a man awaiting execution. Victoria studied him for a moment. "I owe you an apology." Thomas blinked. "Excuse me. Last week, in the conference room, I was harsh. The projector failure wasn't your fault. I shouldn't have treated you like it was." Thomas stared at her. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know that I recognize I was wrong. It won't happen again." Thomas sat in stunned silence for nearly 30 seconds. Then slowly something changed in his face. The fear was still there, but underneath it something else was growing. Something that looked almost like respect. "Thank you," he said finally. "That means a lot. Now tell me about this proposal." Thomas talked for 45 minutes. Victoria listened without interrupting once. At the end she asked questions, real questions, not the loaded kind designed to expose weakness. They discussed options, weighed costs, debated timelines. When Thomas left, he was walking taller than when he had arrived. Victoria watched him go and felt something unfamiliar in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. Pride. Not in herself. In him. In what he had done, what he was capable of. She had spent years tearing people down. She had forgotten what it felt like to build them up. That evening, Marcus found her in the break room. She was sitting alone, staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold. The building was quiet. Just the two of them, and the hum of the vending machine. "Long day?" he asked. "I apologized to Thomas Park." Marcus sat down across from her. How did that feel? Terrifying, like jumping off a cliff. And freeing, like I'd been carrying something heavy and didn't know it until I put it down. That's how it starts. Victoria looked at him. "I keep waiting for something bad to happen, for someone to take advantage, for the weakness to cost me something." Has it? Not yet. Maybe it won't. Maybe. She wrapped her hands around the cold cup. Or maybe I'm just setting myself up for another betrayal, another lesson I don't want to learn. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "When Sarah was dying, I tried to control everything. Her medication schedule, her doctor appointments, what she ate when she slept. I thought if I could just manage it all perfectly, I could somehow keep her alive. What happened? She pulled me aside one night. She was so weak she could barely sit up. And she said, 'Marcus, I'm going to die whether you sleep or not. So please stop trying to save me and just be with me while I'm still here.'" His voice cracked slightly. "I spent so much time fighting against reality that I almost missed the time we had left. The last 3 months I finally let go. I stopped trying to control the uncontrollable. And those 3 months were the best we had. Painful, devastating, but also beautiful. Because I was finally present." Victoria wiped her eyes. "I don't know how to let go." "Nobody does. We just practice. Over and over. And some days we fail. And then we try again." "What if I fail?" "You will. Guaranteed. The question isn't whether you'll fail. It's what you'll do after." Victoria laughed softly. "You make it sound so simple." "Simple isn't easy. They're two different things. The path forward is simple, but walking it is the hardest thing you'll ever do. They sat in silence for a while. Not uncomfortable, just two people sharing space without needing to fill it with words. Finally, Victoria spoke. "Tell me about Emma. Tell me something that makes you smile." Marcus's face softened immediately. Last week she came home from school upset. Some kid had told her that her drawings were ugly. She's been drawing constantly since Sarah died. It's how she processes things. So this really hurt her. "What did you do?" I asked to see the drawings. She showed me about 20 of them. Houses, trees, animals, her mother. And I told her something Sarah used to tell me. "What?" "That art isn't about being good enough for other people. It's about getting the inside on the outside. If you look at a drawing and it makes you feel something, then it worked. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks." Did that help? She thought about it for a minute. Then she said, "Dad, my drawings make me feel happy. So I guess that kid can shut up." Victoria laughed. A real laugh, not the sharp cutting sound she usually made. She sounds like a force of nature. She is. She's the best thing I ever had a hand in making. And most days I feel like I'm just trying to keep up with her. Victoria thought about her own life. No children, no partner, no one waiting at home. "I used to want kids," she said quietly. "A long time ago, before everything fell apart." "What changed?" "I got scared. Scared of being responsible for someone else's happiness. Scared of failing them. Scared of loving something that could be taken away. That's the risk of loving anything." "I know. That's why I stopped." Marcus leaned forward. "Victoria, can I tell you something honestly?" "Yes." "You haven't stopped. You've just redirected it. You love this company. You love the legacy your father left. You love being excellent, being the best. That's still love. It's just pointed at things instead of people." Victoria felt tears threatening again. "Things can't leave you." "No. But they can't hold you either. They can't tell you they're proud of you. Can't forgive you when you mess up. Can't sit with you when you're scared and make it a little less dark." He stood up and gathered his supplies. "You're not as alone as you think. You've just been looking for connection in places where it can't grow." He headed for the door. "Same time tomorrow?" Victoria asked. Marcus looked back at her. For the first time since they met, he smiled. "I'll be here." The door closed behind him. Victoria sat alone in the break room surrounded by vending machines and fluorescent lights and the quiet hum of a building that was slowly imperceptibly beginning to change. She picked up her cold coffee. She did not drink it, but for the first time in years, she did not feel the need to throw it either. 2 weeks passed. Victoria kept her evening meetings with Marcus in the break room. They became a ritual she did not name or examine too closely. He would finish his rounds on her floor around 8, and she would be waiting with coffee that she never drank, and questions she had been saving all day. She told him about her father, about the partner who betrayed her, about the years of building walls so high she forgot there was a sky. He told her about Sarah, about Emma, about the small apartment they shared and the drawings Emma taped to every wall, about the nights he still reached for his wife's side of the bed and found it empty. They were not friends. Victoria did not have friends. But they were something. Something she did not have a word for. The changes in the building continued. Robert Chen noticed first. He came to Victoria's office with a quarterly projection that showed a 15% increase in employee productivity. "I don't understand it," he said, setting the report on her desk. "Nothing's changed operationally. Same systems, same processes, same people. But output is up across every department." Victoria looked at the numbers. She understood exactly what had changed, but she did not say it. "Good work, Robert. Keep monitoring." Robert hesitated at the door. "Victoria, can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Are you okay?" Victoria looked up. "Why wouldn't I be?" "It's just, you've been different lately. Not bad different, just different. People are talking." What are they saying? Robert shifted his weight. They're saying maybe the Ice Queen is thawing. Victoria should have been angry. 6 months ago, she would have fired someone for less. But instead, she felt something unexpected. She smiled. Let them talk. Robert left, looking like he had witnessed a miracle. Victoria turned back to her computer, but her mind was elsewhere. She thought about the people in this building, the thousands of lives that intersected with hers every day. For 12 years, she had treated them like machinery. Inputs and outputs. Performance metrics and quarterly reviews. She had never once asked what they were afraid of. The crisis came without warning. It was a Thursday evening, late October. Victoria was in her office reviewing contracts when the lights flickered once, twice, and then died. Complete darkness. Emergency lighting kicked in after 3 seconds, casting the floor in harsh white strips. But the main system stayed dead. Computers went black. The hum of climate control vanished. Elevators stopped between floors. Victoria stood and walked to her door. The hallway was chaos. People were stumbling out of offices, phones in hand, voices rising with confusion and fear. Someone was shouting about being trapped in the elevator. Someone else was crying. Victoria's assistant ran toward her. The whole building is down. Backup generators aren't engaging. It says it might be hours before... Where's the building manager? I don't know. Nobody can find him. Victoria pushed past her and headed for the stairwell. She needed to get to the lobby to take control of the situation, to do something. But when she opened the stairwell door, she found madness. The stairs were packed with people trying to get down. In the emergency lighting, faces looked ghostly, panicked. Someone pushed past her, nearly knocking her down. Voices echoed off the concrete walls. Move! My phone's dead. Is there a fire? I can't see anything. Victoria tried to speak to assert authority. Everyone calm down. This is just a power outage. There's no danger. No one listened. No one even looked at her. In the darkness, without the trappings of her office, without the fear that usually preceded her, Victoria Sterling was just another body in the crowd. She felt something she had not felt in years. Helplessness. Then a voice cut through the chaos. Everyone stop moving! The voice was calm, steady, carrying without shouting. Victoria recognized it immediately. Marcus stood 3 flights up, a flashlight in his hand. The beam cut through the darkness like a lighthouse through fog. There is no fire, Marcus continued. This is a power outage. The building is safe. But we need to move slowly and carefully. No pushing, no running. 1 step at a time. Someone shouted back. Who the hell are you? I'm the guy with the flashlight. So unless you can see in the dark, I suggest you follow me. There was a moment of hesitation. Then slowly the crowd began to organize. People stopped pushing. Voices lowered. The panic dissolved into something manageable. Marcus began walking down the stairs, his flashlight illuminating each step. The crowd followed like children following a teacher through a storm. Victoria watched him work. She had spent 12 years believing that fear was the only way to control people. That authority came from power, from position, from the ability to destroy. Marcus had none of those things. He had a flashlight and a steady voice. And somehow that was enough. She joined the back of the crowd and followed him down. 40 floors took nearly an hour. Marcus never rushed. He stopped to help a woman who had twisted her ankle. He carried the briefcase of a man who was struggling with a heart condition. He made jokes that weren't funny, but somehow made people laugh anyway. By the time they reached the lobby, the crowd had transformed. Fear had become relief. Strangers were helping strangers. Someone started a round of applause when Marcus pushed open the final door. He waved it off. Just doing my job. Everyone get home safe. People dispersed into the night. Emergency vehicles had arrived, their lights painting the street in red and blue. Victoria stood near the entrance, watching her employees scatter. Then she heard shouting from inside. The server room. We're losing everything. Victoria ran back into the building. In the basement, 3 floors down, The company's servers held 12 years of financial data client information, proprietary technology. Without power, without climate control, the systems were overheating. Millions of dollars of information on the verge of being destroyed. The IT team was in full panic. Thomas Park was on his knees in front of a server rack, his face illuminated by the glow of warning lights. The backup generators won't engage. I've tried everything. Manual override isn't responding. How long do we have? 20 minutes, maybe less. After that, the servers overheat and we lose everything. Victoria felt her chest tighten. 12 years of work, her father's legacy, everything she had built. There has to be something, some way to... I've tried everything. The generators are on the third-floor mechanical room. Something's blocking the engagement sequence. It needs to be done manually, but none of us know how. Victoria's mind raced. She needed an engineer, a technician, someone who understood building systems. But in the chaos of the evacuation, specialists had scattered. She was surrounded by people who understood code, not machinery. Then she heard footsteps behind her. Marcus appeared in the doorway, his flashlight beam sweeping across the room. Heard you might need some help down here. Thomas looked up. Can you fix a backup generator? I can try. Used to work building maintenance before this. Third floor mechanical room. But none of us know where. I know where it is. I've been cleaning up there for 3 weeks. Marcus turned and disappeared into the darkness. Victoria followed without thinking. Wait, let me come with you. Marcus glanced back. It's dark up there. Dangerous. I don't care. They climbed 3 flights in silence. The emergency lighting in the mechanical areas was weaker, just faint red strips along the floor. Marcus moved with confidence, his flashlight carving a path through equipment and pipes. You shouldn't be here, he said. If something goes wrong, I want to see it for myself. Why? Because this is my company, my responsibility. I've spent 12 years making other people take the fall for failures. If this place goes down, I want to go down with it. Marcus stopped walking. In the dim light, she could see his expression. That's the first time I've heard you talk about this place, like it matters to you. Really matters. It always mattered. I just forgot how to show it. They reached the mechanical room. Marcus pushed open the heavy door and swept his flashlight across walls of equipment pipes and control panels. There. He pointed to a massive generator in the corner. The automatic engagement failed. I need to reset the breakers and manually start the sequence. What do you need me to do? Hold the flashlight. Keep it steady on that panel. Victoria took the flashlight. Her hands were shaking, but she steadied them. Marcus opened a control panel and began working. His hands moved with the confidence of someone who had done this before, though not exactly this. She watched him trace wires, flip switches, examine gauges. Talk to me, he said. What? Talk to me. About anything. It helps me focus. Victoria's mind went blank. Then she heard herself speaking. My father used to bring me to this building when I was little. Before it was called Sterling Tower. It was just an empty lot back then. He would stand in the middle of the dirt and describe what he was going to build. Every floor, every window, every detail. Marcus kept working, but she knew he was listening. I thought he was crazy. We had nothing. My mother had just left. He was working 3 jobs just to keep us fed. But he would stand there in that empty lot like he could see the whole thing already built. Sounds like a man with vision. He was. He saw things before they existed, and then he made them exist. And you? Victoria watched the flashlight beam tremble slightly. I see things after they break. I see failures and weaknesses and ways people can disappoint me. I inherited his building, but not his vision. I've spent 12 years protecting what he built instead of building something of my own. Marcus paused in his work. That's not true. What do you mean? You've been building something these past few weeks. I've seen it. The way people look at you is changing. The way they talk about you. That's not protection. That's creation. He returned to the wires. You're building trust. That's harder than building a tower. Towers just need money and time. Trust needs everything you have. Victoria felt tears threatening. She blinked them back. What if I can't maintain it? What if I fall back into old patterns? You will, guaranteed. The question is what you do after. You've said that before. Because it's true. Change isn't about being perfect. It's about getting up after you fall, over and over, until getting up becomes who you are. Marcus pulled one final lever. Nothing happened. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Victoria's heart sank. Then she heard it. A deep mechanical hum. The generator shuddered once, twice, and then roared to life. Lights flickered throughout the building. The emergency lighting gave way to normal fluorescence. The hum of climate control returned. Marcus stepped back, wiping his hands on his uniform. That should do it. Servers should be cooling down now. Victoria let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. How did you know how to do that? I didn't. Not exactly. I just understood the principles and made educated guesses. He smiled slightly. Sometimes that's all you can do. Try your best and hope it works. And if it hadn't, then we would have tried something else, or failed. Either way, we would have done it together. They stood in the humming mechanical room surrounded by pipes and wires and the machinery that kept the building alive. Thank you, Victoria said. You saved everything. I flipped some switches. Thomas and his team will do the real work recovering the systems. You know that's not what I mean. Marcus looked at her. In the restored lighting, she could see the exhaustion in his face, the gray in his hair, the lines that came from years of loss and struggle. You would have figured it out. You're smarter than you give yourself credit for. I'm not talking about the generator. I'm talking about everything. The conference room, the break room conversations, the way you've pushed me to see things differently. Victoria paused. You've changed me, Marcus. I don't know how to thank you for that. You already have. How? By actually changing. Most people don't. Most people hear hard truths and forget them the next day. You heard them and did something about it. That's the best thanks I could ever receive. Her phone buzzed. Messages flooding in now that the systems were restored. Board members wanting updates. Media wanting statements. 1,000 demands pulling at her attention. Victoria looked at the phone, then at Marcus. I have to go handle this. I know. Will you still come by the break room tonight? I have to finish my rounds first. The power outage made a mess of things. I'll wait. She walked toward the door, then stopped. Marcus. Yes. Emma's lucky to have you as a father. Something softened in his face. Thank you. That means more than you know. Victoria left the mechanical room and descended toward the chaos waiting below. Board members, journalists, insurance adjusters. All of them wanting answers. All of them wanting someone to blame. She would handle them. She would answer their questions and address their concerns and do everything a CEO was supposed to do in a crisis. But for the first time, she understood something her father had known all along. The building wasn't what mattered. It was just concrete and glass and steel. What mattered was the people inside it, the lives that intersected within its walls, the trust that held it all together. Her father hadn't built a tower. He had built a community. And somewhere along the way, she had forgotten that. The lobby was madness when she arrived. Gerald Patterson, the building manager, had finally appeared. He was red-faced, apologizing profusely for being unreachable during the crisis. I was stuck in traffic. My phone died. By the time I got here... It's fine, Gerald. These things happen. Gerald's mouth fell open. Victoria Sterling did not say, it's fine. Victoria Sterling destroyed people for smaller failures than this. I'm sorry. I said it's fine. The crisis was handled. No one was hurt. Now I need you to coordinate with the power company and get me a full report by tomorrow morning." "Yes, ma'am. Of course." Victoria moved through the lobby answering questions, giving orders, directing the chaos toward resolution. But she did it differently than before. She asked instead of demanded. She listened instead of lectured. She said please and thank you and meant them. People noticed. Thomas Park approached her near the elevator. "The servers are stabilizing. We didn't lose anything. Complete recovery." "That's excellent news, Thomas. Great work under pressure." Thomas blinked. "It wasn't me. It was Marcus. He got the generators running." "I know. But you kept the team focused while he did. That matters too." Thomas looked at her like she was speaking a foreign language. "Are you feeling okay, Miss Sterling?" Victoria almost laughed. "I'm feeling better than I have in years, Thomas. Go home. Get some rest. You've earned it." She watched him walk away, still looking confused. Good. Let them be confused. Let them wonder what happened to the woman who threw coffee cups and destroyed careers with a single glance. Let them see that people could change, even people who seemed frozen in their worst selves. By midnight, the building was empty, except for security and cleaning crew. The crisis had passed. The story would be all over the news tomorrow. Sterling Financial Tower goes dark. But the spin would be positive. No injuries. No data loss. A testament to quick thinking and proper preparation. Victoria sat alone in the break room waiting. At 12:30, Marcus appeared. He looked exhausted. His uniform rumpled, his face drawn. But he smiled when he saw her. "Long night." "The longest." He sat down across from her. Neither of them spoke for a moment. The vending machine hummed. The clock on the wall ticked. "I called Emma," Marcus said finally. "She was worried when she heard about the blackout on the news. I told her everything was fine." "Was she scared?" "A little. She asked if the building was going to fall down. I told her buildings don't fall down just because the lights go out." "Smart kid." She also asked if the mean lady was okay. Victoria froze. "The mean lady?" Marcus winced slightly. "I may have mentioned something about my boss when she asked about my job." "You told your 8-year-old daughter that I'm mean." "I told her that my boss was going through a hard time, and sometimes people act mean when they're hurting inside. Emma said that's what happened to Tommy Patterson at her school. His parents got divorced, and he started pushing kids on the playground. But after a while he got better." Victoria didn't know whether to laugh or cry. An 8-year-old had diagnosed her more accurately than any therapist could have. "What else does Emma know about me?" "She knows you run a big company. She knows you work very hard. And she knows that her dad thinks you're trying to be better." "Does she believe that—" "She believes everyone deserves a chance to be better. She's optimistic like that." Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question she had been holding back all night. "When you were in that mechanical room working on the generator, were you scared?" "Yes." "You didn't seem scared." "Being scared and acting scared are two different things. I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to fix it, that I'd let everyone down, that 12 years of your father's work would be destroyed because I couldn't figure out which wire went where. But you kept going. What choice did I have? Stop and let everyone lose everything? Fear doesn't give you good options. It just makes the options you have feel impossible. So how do you push through?" Marcus considered the question. "I think about Emma. I think about what I want to model for her. If I give up when things get hard, she'll learn to give up. If I push through despite being scared, she'll learn that fear isn't the end of the road. It's just a sign that you're doing something that matters." You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's just clear. There's a difference. Victoria nodded slowly. She understood what he meant now in a way she hadn't before. "I want to do something," she said. "For you. For what you did tonight." "That's not necessary." "I know it's not necessary. I want to do it anyway." Marcus shook his head. "I don't need money. I don't need a better position. I have what I need." Then what can I give you? He thought about it for a long moment. Then he spoke. Come to Emma's birthday party. Victoria stared at him. What? She turns 9 in 2 weeks. We're having a small party at our apartment. Just some kids from her school and a few neighbors. She's been asking about the lady from my work, the one who's trying to be better. You want me to come to a child's birthday party? I want you to meet my daughter. I want her to see that people can change. And honestly, I think you could use a reminder of what normal life looks like. Victoria had never been to a child's birthday party, not even as a child herself. Her father had been too busy building his empire. Her mother had left when she was 6. I wouldn't know what to do. You show up, you eat cake, you watch kids run around screaming. It's not complicated. What would I wear? Marcus laughed. It was the first time she had heard him really laugh. Victoria, it's a 9-year-old's birthday party. Wear whatever you want. Just don't wear one of your power suits. The kids will think you're a vampire. A vampire. Dark clothes, pale skin, never smiles. Classic vampire profile. Victoria felt something unfamiliar bubbling up inside her. It took her a moment to recognize it as joy. I don't know the first thing about 9-year-old girls. Neither do I, and I've been raising one for 9 years. We figure it out as we go. She looked at him across the table. This janitor, this widower, this man who had walked into her conference room 3 weeks ago and changed everything. Why are you doing this? Why do you care what happens to me? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Because my wife asked me to. What do you mean? Before she died, Sarah made me promise something. She said the world was going to try to make me hard and bitter. She said losing her could turn me into someone cold. And she made me promise that if I ever met someone who was lost in that coldness, I would try to help them find their way back. Victoria felt tears spilling down her cheeks. She didn't try to stop them. She sounds incredible. She was. She saw the best in everyone, even when they couldn't see it themselves. She would have liked you. How can you possibly know that? Because she liked people who were fighting to be better. She always said that was the bravest thing anyone could do. Victoria wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Her mascara was probably ruined. She didn't care. I'll come. To Emma's party. I'll be there. Good. Saturday the 15th, 2 o'clock. I'll text you the address. You have my number. It's in the building directory. I looked it up weeks ago. Why? Because I knew this day was coming. I just had to wait for you to be ready. Victoria shook her head slowly. You're a strange man, Marcus Webb. So I've been told. They sat in silence for a while longer. Not awkward, just comfortable. Two people who had been through something together and come out the other side. Finally, Marcus stood up. I should get home. Emma will be asleep, but I like to check on her before I go to bed. Make sure she's breathing. Make sure she's real. Does it ever feel unreal? Being a parent. Every single day, you create this whole person, this whole life, and then you have to figure out how to not mess them up. He smiled. It's the best thing I've ever done. Also the scariest. I think that's true of anything worth doing. Maybe so. He headed for the door, then turned back. Victoria. Yes. Thank you. For what? For proving me right. For showing Emma that people can change. For being brave enough to try. He left before she could respond. Victoria sat alone in the break room, surrounded by vending machines and empty chairs, and the quiet hum of a building that had almost died tonight. She thought about generators and blackouts and 40 floors of darkness. She thought about a little girl who believed everyone deserved a chance to be better. She thought about a dying woman who made her husband promise to help lost people find their way home. And she thought about herself, who she had been, who she was becoming, who she might still be if she kept trying. The clock on the wall said 1:15 a.m., Saturday the 15th. 2 o'clock. Victoria Sterling had a birthday party to attend. She had no idea what to expect. But for the first time in 12 years, she was looking forward to finding out. The 2 weeks before Emma's birthday were the longest of Victoria's life. She found herself distracted in meetings, her mind wandering to questions she had never considered before. What do you bring to a 9-year-old's birthday party? What do 9-year-olds like? What if Emma hated her? What if all the children hated her? On Tuesday, she asked Jennifer to research popular toys for girls aged 8 to 10. Jennifer stared at her. Is everything okay, Miss Sterling? Just answer the question. I have 3 nieces around that age. They're really into art supplies right now. Fancy markers, sketchbooks, that kind of thing. Victoria remembered what Marcus had said about Emma's drawings, how she had been drawing constantly since her mother died. Where would I buy quality art supplies? Jennifer's confusion deepened. There's a Blick Art Materials downtown. They have professional grade stuff. Schedule time for me to go there, Thursday afternoon. You want me to schedule a shopping trip? Is that a problem? No, ma'am. It's just, you've never asked me to schedule a shopping trip before. Victoria looked at her assistant, really looked at her. Jennifer was 28 years old, engaged, planning a wedding for June. Victoria had learned that much in their brief conversation 2 weeks ago. Jennifer, what did you want to be when you were 9 years old? Jennifer blinked. Excuse me. When you were Emma's age, what did you dream about? I wanted to be a veterinarian. I loved animals. What happened? I found out you have to put them down sometimes. I couldn't handle that part. Victoria nodded slowly. Dreams change. That's not always a bad thing. Jennifer looked at her with an expression Victoria had never seen before, something between wonder and concern. Miss Sterling, are you sure you're feeling okay? I'm feeling better than I have in years. Now schedule that shopping trip. Thursday afternoon, Victoria walked into Blick Art Materials for the first time in her life. She had no idea what she was doing. The store was overwhelming. Aisles of brushes and paints and papers and tools she couldn't identify. She stood near the entrance, frozen, feeling more out of place than she had in any boardroom. A young employee approached her. He had paint stains on his apron and a friendly smile. Can I help you find something? I need art supplies for a gift for a 9-year-old girl who likes to draw. Awesome. What's her skill level? Beginner, intermediate? Victoria had no idea. She draws constantly. Her father says it's how she processes things. The employee's expression softened. Sounds like art therapy. That's beautiful. Let me show you some options. He walked her through the store, explaining the differences between markers and colored pencils, between sketchbooks and drawing pads. Victoria listened intently, asking questions, taking mental notes. If she's really serious about it, you might consider a professional grade set, something that will last and give her room to grow. Show me the best you have. 45 minutes later, Victoria left with a $200 art supply set, a leather-bound sketchbook, and a book about famous women artists throughout history. The employee had wrapped everything in colorful paper with a purple bow. She's going to love this, he said. Whoever she is, she's lucky to have someone who cares this much. Victoria didn't know how to respond to that, so she just nodded and left. In her car, she sat holding the wrapped package, feeling something strange. Anticipation, nervousness, hope. She had spent millions of dollars on acquisitions and investments without feeling anything, but this $200 gift for a child she had never met made her hands shake. What was happening to her Saturday arrived faster than Victoria expected. She stood in front of her closet at noon, paralyzed by indecision. Her wardrobe was entirely composed of business attire. Gray suits, black dresses, sharp blazers and tailored pants. Nothing that said, friendly adult at a children's birthday party. She called Jennifer. I need your help. It's Saturday, Miss Sterling. I know, I'm sorry, but I don't know what to wear. A long pause. Where to what? A birthday party, for a 9-year-old. Another pause longer this time. Are you being serious right now? Unfortunately, yes. Jennifer laughed. Victoria had never heard her assistant laugh before. It was a nice sound. Okay. What do you have that's not black or gray? Nothing. Nothing. I own one white blouse. That won't work. What about jeans? I don't own jeans. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Miss Sterling, when's the last time you went anywhere that wasn't work or a business function? Victoria tried to remember. She couldn't. That's what I thought. Okay, here's what you're going to do. Go to Target. Buy a pair of jeans and a simple top. Something with color. Blue or green. Nothing too fancy. You want to look approachable, not intimidating. Target? Yes, Target. Regular people shop there. You'll survive. Victoria had never been to Target. An hour later, she walked out with dark blue jeans, a soft green sweater, and white sneakers. The total came to less than what she usually spent on a single blouse. She felt ridiculous. And somehow, that felt right. At 1:45, Victoria pulled up to a modest apartment complex on the east side of the city. She had driven past buildings like this 1,000 times without ever really seeing them. 3 stories, brick exterior. A small playground in the center courtyard. Cars lined the street, most of them older than anything in her parking garage. She sat in her car, holding Emma's gift, trying to breathe. This was insane. She was a billionaire CEO about to walk into a 9-year-old's birthday party in a neighborhood she had never visited. She didn't belong here. She didn't know how to do this. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. You coming in, or you gonna sit in your car all day? Victoria looked up. Marcus was standing on a second-floor balcony waving at her. She got out of the car. The walk from the parking lot to the apartment felt like crossing a battlefield. She passed children playing on the swings. A group of teenagers talking by the stairs. An elderly woman watering plants on her balcony. Everyone looked at her, not with fear or deference, just curiosity. Who was this woman in new jeans and a price tag she had forgotten to remove? Marcus met her at the door. You made it. I almost didn't. I know. I watched you sit in your car for 10 minutes. I was gathering my courage. For a 9-year-old's birthday party. This is the scariest thing I've ever done. Marcus smiled, not mocking, understanding. Come on. She's been asking about you all morning. The apartment was small, smaller than Victoria's closet. But it was warm in a way her penthouse had never been. Drawings covered every wall. Not framed, just taped up with colorful tape. Flowers and trees and houses and people. And in at least a dozen of them, a woman with dark hair and a kind smile. Sarah. Emma had been drawing her mother. Victoria felt her throat tighten. You okay? Marcus asked quietly. The drawings. They're everywhere. That's Emma's gallery. She adds new ones every week. They're beautiful. She'll be happy to hear that. Come on, she's in the kitchen. The kitchen was full of children. 6 of them, maybe 7, all wearing paper crowns and eating pizza. At the head of the small table sat a girl with dark hair and her father's steady eyes. Emma Webb looked up when Victoria entered. Dad, is that her? The lady from your work? That's her. Emma studied Victoria with an intensity that reminded her of Marcus. Then she smiled. You don't look mean. Victoria felt something crack inside her. I'm trying not to be. Dad said you were having a hard time, and that's why you acted mean sometimes. I told him that happened to Tommy Patterson at my school too. Your dad told me about Tommy. I'm glad he got better. Me too. He's actually nice now. We played together at recess last week. Emma pointed to an empty chair. You can sit next to me if you want. Victoria sat. For the next hour, she experienced something she had never experienced before. Chaos. Joyful, uncontrolled, utterly unpredictable chaos. Children ran around the small apartment. They played games she didn't recognize. They spilled juice and dropped pizza and laughed at jokes that made no sense. Emma introduced her to every single one of her friends, giving detailed explanations of how she knew each of them. "That's Maya. She's my best friend. We met in first grade when she shared her crayons with me. That's Devin. He's allergic to everything, but he's really funny. That's Lily and her brother James. They live downstairs. Their mom makes the best cookies." Victoria tried to keep track. She failed. But she nodded and smiled and said hello to each child, and somehow that was enough. When it was time for presents, Emma insisted Victoria go first. "You're a special guest. Special guests go first." Victoria handed over the wrapped package, suddenly terrified that she had gotten it wrong, that a 9-year-old would see through her attempt to connect and find it lacking. Emma unwrapped the gift slowly, carefully. She removed the bow and set it aside. She peeled back the paper without tearing it. "Mom always said presents should be opened respectfully," she explained, "because someone worked hard to wrap them." Victoria's eyes burned. Emma opened the box. She stared at the contents without speaking. "It's art supplies," Victoria said, her voice uncertain. "Professional grade. The man at the store said they're good for someone who's serious about drawing. And there's a sketchbook leather-bound so it will last. And a book about women artists because I thought maybe you'd like to see what other women have created." Emma still hadn't spoken. Victoria's heart sank. "If you don't like it, I can exchange it for something else. I wasn't sure what 9-year-olds..." Emma launched herself out of her chair and threw her arms around Victoria's neck. Victoria froze. She couldn't remember the last time anyone had hugged her. Years, probably. A decade, maybe. "Thank you," Emma whispered against her shoulder. "This is the best present ever." Victoria's arms came up slowly, uncertainly. She wrapped them around the small body pressed against her. "You're welcome," she managed to say. When Emma finally let go, her eyes were bright with tears. "Mom always wanted me to be an artist. She said I had a gift. But we could never afford the good supplies. Now you have them." Emma looked down at the set again, running her fingers over the markers and pencils. "Will you stay for cake? I want you to see my drawings. The real ones, not just the ones on the wall. I keep my best ones in a special folder." "I'd like that very much." The cake was chocolate with purple frosting. Emma's favorite colors, Marcus explained. 9 candles flickered on top. Everyone gathered around the small table. Marcus turned off the lights. The candles cast a warm glow over Emma's face. "Make a wish," someone said. Emma closed her eyes. Her lips moved silently. Then she opened her eyes and blew out all 9 candles in one breath. The children cheered. Marcus turned the lights back on. "What did you wish for?" Maya asked. "I can't tell you. Then it won't come true." But Emma glanced at Victoria as she said it, just for a moment. Victoria felt something shift inside her, something that had been locked away for so long she had forgotten it existed. After the other children left, Emma pulled out her special folder. It was a battered manila folder, the edges worn from handling. Inside were dozens of drawings more careful and detailed than the ones on the walls. "These are my best ones. The ones I don't show everyone." She spread them across the coffee table. Victoria leaned forward, studying each one. They were remarkable. Not just for a 9-year-old. Remarkable, period. Emma had an eye for detail, for emotion, for capturing something essential about her subjects. "This one is Mom," Emma said, pointing to a portrait of a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "I draw her a lot, so I don't forget what she looks like. Sometimes I'm scared I'll forget." "You won't forget," Victoria said quietly. "She's part of you. You'll carry her forever." "That's what Dad says. But sometimes it's hard to believe." "I know. I lost my father 7 years ago. Some days I'm scared I'm forgetting him too. The sound of his voice, the way he laughed, the things that made him who he was. Emma looked at her with understanding far beyond her years. Maybe that's why we have to keep them alive in other ways. You with your company, me with my drawings. Victoria felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She didn't try to hide them. You're a very wise person, Emma Webb. Mom said I was an old soul. I don't really know what that means, but I think it's good. It's very good. Marcus had been standing in the doorway watching. Victoria hadn't noticed him until now. Emma, why don't you show Miss Sterling the drawing you've been working on this week? Emma's face lit up. She dug through her folder and pulled out a newer drawing, the paper still crisp. This one's not finished yet, but I wanted you to see it. She held it up. Victoria's breath caught. It was a drawing of two people. A man in a gray uniform pushing a cleaning cart, and a woman with dark hair standing next to him, her posture stiff, but her face softening. That's Dad, Emma explained. And that's you. Dad told me about how you're becoming friends. I wanted to draw it. How did you know what I looked like? Dad described you. He said you have sad eyes but a strong chin. He said you look like someone who forgot how to smile but is starting to remember. Victoria looked at Marcus. He shrugged slightly, a hint of embarrassment crossing his face. You talked about me to your daughter. She asked about my day. I told her. You told her I have sad eyes. You do, or you did. They're different now. Victoria looked back at the drawing. Emma had captured something essential. The distance between the two figures, but also the possibility of connection. The way they were angled toward each other despite the space between them. Can I keep this when it's finished? Emma beamed. Really, you want it? I want to hang it in my office, where I can see it every day. I'll finish it this week. Dad can bring it to you. Victoria felt something she couldn't name. A fullness in her chest. A warmth she had forgotten was possible. Thank you, Emma, for inviting me, for showing me your drawings, for everything. Will you come back? For other stuff, not just birthdays? Victoria looked at Marcus. If that's okay with your father. It's okay with me, Marcus said. Emma clapped her hands. We can have dinner sometimes. Dad makes really good spaghetti. And we can watch movies. Do you like movies? I love movies. Especially ones with happy endings. I don't remember the last movie I watched. Then we have a lot of catching up to do. It was nearly 7 when Victoria finally left. She stood at the door holding her keys, not quite ready to go. Thank you, she said to Marcus. I don't have words for what today meant to me. You don't need words. I saw your face when Emma hugged you. That said everything. I can't remember the last time someone hugged me. That's going to change. Emma's a hugger. You'll get used to it. Victoria smiled. A real smile, not the corporate grimace she had perfected over the years. She's incredible, Marcus. You've done an amazing job with her. She's incredible because of Sarah. I'm just trying not to mess it up. You're not messing anything up. She adores you. Marcus looked away, something vulnerable crossing his face. Some days I feel like I'm drowning, like I have no idea what I'm doing, like she deserves so much more than I can give her. Every good parent feels that way. The fact that you worry means you care enough to try. When did you become an expert on parenting? I'm not, but I'm an expert on trying to live up to someone's expectations and feeling like you're falling short. I've been doing that my whole life. Marcus met her eyes. You're not falling short, Victoria. Not anymore. She left before she could say something she wasn't ready to say. On the drive home, Victoria called her assistant. Jennifer, I need you to do something for me on Monday. It's Saturday night, Miss Sterling. I know, I'm sorry, but this is important. What do you need? I want to set up a scholarship fund for children who show artistic talent but can't afford supplies or lessons. I want it named after Sarah Webb. There was a long silence on the other end. Jennifer, are you still there? I'm here, Miss Sterling, that's a beautiful idea. Can you make it happen? I'll have the paperwork ready by Tuesday. Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you for the shopping advice. The jeans were perfect. Another silence. Then quietly, You're welcome. I hope the party went well. It was the best day I've had in 12 years. Victoria hung up. She drove through the city past the Sterling Financial Tower, rising against the night sky. 40 floors of glass and steel. Her father's legacy. Her empire. It looked different now. Smaller somehow. Not less important, but less consuming. There were other things that mattered. Other ways to measure success. A little girl's drawing. A father's quiet strength. A birthday party in a small apartment where love was more visible than money had ever been. Victoria pulled into her parking garage and sat in the darkness for a long time. She thought about Emma's wish. The one she had made before blowing out her candles. The glance she had given Victoria afterward. What had she wished for Victoria didn't know, but she hoped with everything she had that she could be part of making it come true. The next Monday, everything changed again. Victoria arrived at work early as always, but instead of going straight to her office, she stopped at the security desk in the lobby. Frank, the night security guard, looked up in surprise. "Miss Sterling, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, Frank. I just wanted to say good morning." Frank stared at her. In 15 years, Victoria Sterling had never said good morning to him. "Good morning?" he repeated, like he wasn't sure he had heard correctly. "Yes, good morning. How was your weekend?" Frank looked around, checking to see if this was some kind of test. "It was good. My grandson had a baseball game. We won." "That's wonderful. How old is he?" 10. He plays shortstop." "You must be proud." "I am, very proud." Victoria smiled. "Have a good day, Frank." She walked to the elevator, leaving Frank staring after her in bewilderment. By noon, word had spread through the building. Victoria Sterling had said good morning to the security guard, had asked about his weekend, had smiled. Something was very wrong, or very right. No one could decide which. At 2 o'clock, Marcus appeared at her office door with his cleaning cart. "I heard you're causing quite a stir. I said good morning to Frank." "I know. It's all anyone's talking about. The mailroom is taking bets on what's happening." "What are the odds?" 50-50 between alien abduction and terminal illness." Victoria laughed. The sound surprised her. It came out rusty like machinery that hadn't been used in years. "How's Emma?" "She hasn't stopped talking about you. She showed all her friends the art supplies. She's already planning what she's going to draw first." "I'm glad she liked them." Marcus moved into the office pretending to empty the trash. But Victoria knew he had something else to say. "She asked me something last night." "What?" "She asked if you were going to be around more, like permanently." Victoria's heart stuttered. "What did you tell her?" "I told her I didn't know, that it wasn't my decision to make." "What do you want, Marcus, honestly?" He stopped pretending to work. He turned to face her fully. "I want Emma to have good people in her life. People who care about her. People who show up." "That's not what I asked." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I want to keep talking to you in break rooms at midnight. I want to see you figure out who you really are underneath all that armor. I want to believe that what's happening here is real and not just a phase." "It's not a phase." "How do I know that? How do I know you won't wake up one day and decide this experiment in humanity is too hard, that it's easier to go back to being the Ice Queen?" Victoria stood up from her desk. She walked around to stand in front of him. "You don't know. I don't even know. But I can promise you that I'm trying harder than I've ever tried at anything. Harder than building this company. Harder than proving my father's faith in me was justified." "Why?" "Because for the first time in 12 years I feel like I'm actually living instead of just surviving. Because your daughter hugged me yesterday and I didn't want to let go. Because you look at me like I'm a person instead of a problem." Marcus's expression softened. "You are a person, Victoria. You always were. You just forgot. Will you help me remember? Keep helping me. I've been helping you since the day I walked into that conference room. I know, and I've never thanked you properly. You don't have to thank me. Just keep going, keep changing, keep being the person Emma saw at that party. And if I fall back, if I mess up, then you get up and try again. That's what we all do. That's what being human means. Victoria felt tears threatening again. She was crying more in the past month than she had in the past decade. I'm scared, Marcus. Of what? Of wanting things. I gave up wanting a long time ago. Connection, family, people who matter. Those things are scary because they can be lost. But not wanting them doesn't protect you from loss. It just means you have nothing to lose. And a life with nothing to lose isn't really a life at all. He picked up his cart. I have to finish my rounds. But Victoria. Yes. Emma wants you to come for spaghetti on Friday, if you're free. I'm free. 7 o'clock. Don't bring anything fancy, just yourself. He left. Victoria stood alone in her office, surrounded by the empire she had built and the life she was finally learning to live. Friday couldn't come fast enough. Friday arrived like a gift Victoria didn't know how to unwrap. She left the office at 5:30 for the first time in years. Jennifer stared at her as she walked past. You're leaving now. I have dinner plans. You never have dinner plans. Things change. Victoria drove home and stood in front of her closet again. But this time, it wasn't paralysis. It was anticipation. She pulled out the jeans and green sweater from the birthday party. They felt familiar now. Comfortable. Like armor she had chosen instead of armor she had built. She stopped at a grocery store on the way to Marcus's apartment. Another first. She wandered the aisles for 20 minutes before finding what she was looking for, a bouquet of flowers and a bottle of grape juice. Having a party? The cashier asked. Dinner with friends. Friends. The word felt strange in her mouth. She had colleagues, associates, business contacts, but friends. When was the last time she had used that word? She couldn't remember. At 6:55, Victoria knocked on the door of apartment 2B. Emma opened it before the second knock. You came? I said I would. I know, but Dad said sometimes grown-ups say things they don't mean. I told him you weren't like that. Victoria felt her heart squeeze. Your dad is right. Sometimes grown-ups do say things they don't mean, but I'm trying very hard to be different. I can tell. Come in. The spaghetti is almost ready. The apartment smelled like garlic and tomatoes. Marcus was in the kitchen, stirring a pot that seemed too big for the small stove. He was wearing a faded apron that said, World's Okayest Chef. Nice apron, Victoria said. Emma picked it out. She said it was honest. She's not wrong. Marcus smiled. It transformed his whole face. Victoria realized she had never seen him smile like that before. Not at work, not in their late-night conversations. This was his real smile, the one he saved for his daughter, for his home. Can I help with anything? You can set the table. Plates are in the cabinet above the sink. Forks and napkins are in the drawer to the left. Victoria set the table. It was a simple task, mechanical, but it grounded her. This was what normal people did. They set tables and cooked dinner and ate together. They shared space and conversation and time. She had forgotten what that felt like. I brought flowers, she said, holding up the bouquet, and grape juice. I didn't know if you drink wine. We don't, but Emma loves grape juice. She'll think you're a genius. Emma had disappeared into her room. She emerged a few minutes later holding a piece of paper. I finished it, the drawing of you and Dad. I worked on it all week. She held it up proudly. Victoria took the drawing with careful hands. It was more detailed than the version she had seen at the birthday party. The figures were clearer now. Marcus in his gray uniform, Victoria in what looked like the green sweater she was wearing right now. They were standing closer together than before, and in the corner of the drawing, a small figure with dark hair watched them both. "That's me," Emma explained, pointing to the small figure. "I put myself in because I'm part of it too. Is that okay?" Victoria's voice caught. "That's perfect, Emma. Absolutely perfect. I want you to have it. For your office, like you said. I'm going to frame it and hang it where I can see it every day." Emma beamed. Dinner was chaos. Emma talked constantly, jumping from topic to topic without warning. School friends, the book she was reading, the movie she wanted to see, the dream she had last night about flying. Marcus interjected, occasionally asking questions, redirecting when necessary, but mostly just letting her talk. Victoria listened. She had spent years in meetings where people talked at her, around her, despite her. But this was different. This was conversation. This was connection. This was a family sharing their day. "Do you have any brothers or sisters?" Emma asked suddenly. "No. It was just me and my father." "That sounds lonely." It was sometimes, but my father worked very hard to make sure I never felt alone. Like Dad does with me. Exactly like that. Emma considered this. "I used to want a sister, but then I realized that sisters can be annoying. Maya has a sister, and they fight all the time. Some sisters fight, some don't. Did you ever wish you had a sister?" Victoria thought about it. "I used to wish I had a mother. She left when I was 6. I don't remember much about her." Emma's face grew serious. "That's really sad. At least I have pictures of my mom, and her drawings, and Dad tells me stories about her. That's more than I had, but I turned out okay, eventually. Dad says you're still turning out, like you're not finished yet." Marcus cleared his throat. "Emma, maybe we should—" "It's okay," Victoria said. "She's right. I'm still turning out. We all are, really. We never stop becoming who we're going to be." Emma thought about this while twirling spaghetti around her fork. "I want to become an artist, and a veterinarian, and maybe an astronaut." "You can be all three. Dad says I have to pick one eventually. Your dad is practical, but you have time. You don't have to decide anything right now." Emma grinned. "I like you. You understand things." After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Victoria her room. It was small, barely big enough for a bed and a desk, but every inch was covered with drawings, taped to the walls, pinned to a corkboard stacked on the desk, a riot of color and imagination. "This is where I do my best work," Emma said proudly. "Dad says I can stay up 30 extra minutes on weekends to draw. That's generous of him. He knows it's important. Mom always said art was how I talked to the world." Victoria looked at the drawings more closely. Many of them featured the same woman. Dark hair, kind eyes, gentle smile. Sarah Webb rendered in dozens of different poses and settings. "You draw your mother a lot. Every day, so I don't forget." "You won't forget, Emma. I promise." "How do you know?" Victoria knelt down so she was at Emma's eye level. "Because love doesn't forget. It stays with us, even when the person is gone. Your mother is in everything you create. Every drawing, every color, every line. She's there." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Sometimes I feel her, when I'm drawing, like she's looking over my shoulder." "Maybe she is." "Do you think so? Really? I think the people we love never really leave us. They become part of who we are. And as long as we remember them, as long as we carry them with us, they're never truly gone." Emma threw her arms around Victoria's neck. The second hug in 2 weeks. Victoria was getting better at accepting them. "Thank you," Emma whispered. "For what?" "For understanding. Most grown-ups don't. Most grown-ups forget what it's like to be young. I'm trying to remember." They stayed like that for a long moment. A woman who had spent 12 years building walls, and a 9-year-old who had spent 3 years learning to live without her mother. Two people who understood loss in different ways. who recognized something in each other that others couldn't see. When Victoria finally let go, she wiped her eyes and smiled. "Show me your favorites, the ones that mean the most to you." Emma's face lit up. She pulled out a stack of drawings from a special box under her bed. "These are my best ones. Nobody gets to see these, just me and Dad." "Then I'm honored." They sat on Emma's bed and went through the drawings one by one. Emma explained each one when she drew it, what she was feeling, what she wanted to capture. Victoria listened with the full attention she usually reserved for business deals worth millions. But this was worth more. This was priceless. Downstairs, Marcus was cleaning up the kitchen when Victoria came back down. "Emma's getting ready for bed. She asked if I would come back and tuck her in." "She asked you to tuck her in. Is that okay?" Marcus's expression was unreadable. "That's more than okay. She hasn't asked anyone but me to do that since Sarah died." Victoria felt the weight of that statement, the trust it implied. "I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted. "I've never tucked anyone in before." "Just sit with her. Maybe read a story if she asks. She'll tell you what she needs." Victoria climbed the stairs back to Emma's room. The little girl was already in bed wearing pajamas covered in cartoon cats. "Will you read to me? What would you like me to read?" Emma pointed to a worn book on her nightstand. "That one. It was Mom's favorite." Victoria picked up the book, The Giving Tree, by Shel Silverstein. The cover was soft from handling the pages creased from being turned countless times. She sat on the edge of Emma's bed and opened the book. "Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy." Victoria read slowly, carefully. She had never read aloud to anyone before. But Emma listened with rapt attention, her eyes following the pictures, her breathing growing slower and deeper. By the time Victoria reached the end, Emma was nearly asleep. "Thank you," Emma murmured. "That's how Mom used to read it, slow, like every word mattered." "Every word does matter. Will you come back?" "As often as your father will let me." "I think he'll let you come back a lot. He smiles more when you're around." Victoria pulled the blanket up to Emma's chin. She hesitated, then leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Good night, Emma." "Good night, Victoria." It was the first time Emma had used her name. Not the lady from Dad's work. Not Miss Sterling. Just Victoria. It felt like a gift. She turned off the light and closed the door quietly. Downstairs, Marcus was waiting with 2 cups of coffee. "How'd it go?" "She asked me to read The Giving Tree." Marcus went still. "She hasn't let anyone read that since Sarah died. She said it hurt too much because it was Sarah's favorite." "She told me." "And she let you read it anyway?" "Yes." Marcus set down his coffee cup. His hands were shaking slightly. "Victoria, I need to tell you something." "Okay." "When I walked into that conference room 6 weeks ago, I wasn't looking for trouble. I was just doing my job. But when I saw what was happening, something in me couldn't stay quiet." "I know." "No, you don't know all of it." He took a breath. "After Sarah died, I made her a promise. I told her I would try to make the world a little better whenever I could. Small things, holding doors, helping strangers, speaking up when I saw something wrong. You told me about that promise. But I didn't tell you why I kept coming back to talk to you, why I didn't just say my piece and move on." Victoria waited. "Because I saw something in you that reminded me of myself. After Sarah's diagnosis, those first few months when I was so angry at the world that I couldn't see straight, I pushed everyone away. I built walls. I became someone cold and hard because being soft meant feeling the pain. That's exactly what I did. I know. And I watched you for weeks before that day in the conference room. I saw how people reacted to you, the fear in their eyes, the way they became smaller in your presence. And I thought, that woman is drowning, and nobody's even trying to throw her a rope." Victoria felt tears threatening again. She didn't fight them. So I decided to throw you a rope. I didn't know if you'd grab it. Most people don't. But you did. And every time you grabbed it, I threw you another one. And another. Until here we are. Where are we, Marcus? He looked at her. Really looked. We're somewhere I never expected to be. Somewhere I wasn't looking for. But somewhere that feels right. What does that mean? It means I care about you. Not because you're my boss. Not because I feel sorry for you. Because you're Victoria. Because you fight for things that matter. Because you let my daughter hug you and read her favorite book and tuck her into bed. Victoria's heart was pounding. I don't know how to do this, she said. Whatever this is, I've never had anything like this before. Neither have I. Not since Sarah. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Marcus reached across the small space between them and took her hand. I'm saying that I'm not scared of you, Victoria Sterling. I'm not scared of your empire or your reputation or your walls. And I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me to leave. Victoria looked at their joined hands, her manicured fingers intertwined with his calloused ones, two different worlds touching. I don't want you to leave. Good. I don't know how to be what Emma needs, what you need. Nobody knows how to be those things. We figure it out as we go. What if I mess up? You will. I will too, and then we'll try again. Together. Victoria felt something unlock inside her. A door she had sealed 12 years ago when she decided that trust was weakness and love was a trap. It swung open now, and what poured through was terrifying and wonderful and more real than anything she had felt in years. Together, she repeated. Marcus smiled. That real smile. The one he saved for the people who mattered most. Together. 3 months later, Victoria stood at a podium in the Sterling Financial Tower lobby. The space was packed with employees, board members, journalists, and a small group of special guests. At the front of the crowd stood Marcus and Emma, dressed in their best clothes. Thank you all for being here, Victoria began. Today we're announcing something that's been in the works for several months. Something that represents a new direction for Sterling Financial, and for me personally. She paused, looking out at the faces before her. She recognized more of them now. Frank the security guard, Thomas Park from IT, Jennifer her assistant, who had become something like a friend, Robert Chen, who still looked at her with slight confusion, but no longer with fear. 12 years ago I inherited this company from my father. He built it from nothing with hard work, vision, and an unshakable belief that people deserve second chances. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that last part. I became so focused on protecting what he built that I forgot what he actually built it for. She took a breath. A few months ago, someone walked into my conference room and told me something I didn't want to hear. He told me that fear doesn't protect us. It just makes us smaller. He told me that strength and cruelty aren't the same thing. He told me that I was not a monster, just someone who had forgotten what it meant to be human. Victoria looked at Marcus. He was watching her with pride in his eyes. That person was a janitor, a single father, a widower, a man with nothing to lose and everything to give. He threw me a rope when I was drowning, and he kept throwing them until I finally learned to swim. A murmur went through the crowd. People exchanged glances. Today, I'm proud to announce the Sarah Webb Foundation for Young Artists. This foundation will provide scholarships, supplies, and mentorship to children from underserved communities who show artistic talent but lack resources to develop it. She gestured to a large screen behind her, which displayed the foundation's logo, a simple drawing of a tree with colorful leaves. The logo was designed by Emma Webb, who is 9 years old and one of the most talented artists I've ever met. She also happens to be the daughter of Marcus Webb, the janitor who changed my life. Every head in the room turned toward Marcus and Emma. Emma was beaming. Marcus looked embarrassed but proud. This foundation is named after Emma's mother, Sarah, who believed that everyone deserves a chance to express their gifts. Sarah died 3 years ago, but her legacy lives on in her daughter, in her husband, and now in every child who will benefit from this foundation. Victoria stepped back from the podium. I'm not the same person I was 3 months ago. I'm not the person my employees feared, or my competitors mocked, or my own reflection didn't recognize. I'm still learning who I am now, but I know one thing for certain. She looked at Marcus and Emma again. I know that the most valuable things in life aren't the things you build, or the money you make, or the power you accumulate. The most valuable things are the people who see you at your worst and stay anyway. The people who believe in your potential, even when you've forgotten you have any. The people who love you, not because of what you can give them, but simply because you exist. Victoria smiled. I found those people when I least expected to. In a conference room on the 40th floor. In a small apartment on the east side of town. In a 9-year-old's birthday party, and a midnight conversation in a break room. She straightened her shoulders. Sterling Financial will continue to grow and succeed. But from now on, we measure success differently. Not just in profits and quarterly reports, but in how we treat the people who make those profits possible. In how we lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. In how we remember that every person in this building, from the CEO to the janitor, has value and dignity and deserves to be seen. She stepped away from the podium. Thank you. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have a spaghetti dinner to attend. The crowd laughed. Then they applauded. Not the polite, obligatory applause Victoria was used to receiving. Something warmer. Something real. She walked through the crowd toward Marcus and Emma. People reached out to shake her hand, to thank her, to tell her they were proud to work for her company. She smiled and nodded, and kept moving until she reached the two people who mattered most. Emma grabbed her hand. That was amazing. You talked about Mom. You said her name in front of everyone. Your mother deserves to be remembered. Marcus put his arm around Victoria's shoulders. In public. In front of the entire company. A statement that needed no words. Ready to go home? He asked. Home. The word had meant nothing to Victoria for 12 years. Just a place to sleep between working hours. But now it meant something different. It meant a small apartment with drawings on the walls. It meant spaghetti dinners and bedtime stories. It meant two people who had chosen her not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Yes, Victoria said. I'm ready to go home. They walked out together, the three of them. A billionaire CEO, a janitor, and a 9-year-old artist. An unlikely family formed from loss and courage, and the simple act of speaking the truth. Behind them, the Sterling Financial Tower rose against the evening sky. 40 floors of glass and steel, a monument to what one man had built, and what his daughter had learned to protect. But the real legacy wasn't in the building. It was walking out the front door, holding hands, heading home for dinner. 6 months later, on a warm spring evening, Victoria sat on the balcony of Marcus's apartment, watching Emma draw in the last light of the setting sun. The Sarah Webb Foundation had launched successfully. 300 children had received scholarships in the first quarter alone. Emma's drawing of the tree with colorful leaves appeared on every piece of foundation literature. Victoria had moved into the apartment 2 months ago. It was small compared to her penthouse, but she had never felt more at home. She still owned Sterling Financial, still made decisions that affected thousands of lives, but she left the office at 6 now, sometimes 5, and she never missed dinner. Marcus came out onto the balcony with 2 cups of coffee. He sat down beside her and handed her one. Penny for your thoughts. I was thinking about that first day, when I threw the coffee cup at the wall. That was quite an entrance. I was so angry, so scared, so sure that fear was the only thing that could protect me. And now, Victoria looked at Emma, her tongue sticking out slightly as she concentrated on her drawing. She looked at Marcus, the man who had seen through her armor and refused to look away. Now I know that fear never protected me from anything. It just kept me alone. Marcus took her hand. You're not alone anymore. No, I'm not. Emma looked up from her drawing. "What are you guys talking about?" "How much we love you," Victoria said. Emma rolled her eyes in the exaggerated way that only 9-year-olds could manage. "You guys are so mushy." "Get used to it," Marcus said. "We're planning to be mushy for a very long time." Emma pretended to gag, but she was smiling. She went back to her drawing. Victoria leaned her head on Marcus's shoulder. The sun continued its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere in the city, the Sterling Financial Tower caught the light and glowed like a beacon. But the real light was here, on this small balcony, in this modest apartment, with these two people who had taught her what it meant to be human. Marcus. Thank you. For what? For not being afraid of me. For seeing something worth saving when everyone else just saw a monster. Marcus kissed the top of her head. You were never a monster, Victoria. You were just someone who forgot that being strong and being cruel aren't the same thing. Someone who built walls so high she forgot what sunlight felt like. And now? Now you're standing in the sun, and you're not alone anymore. Victoria smiled. The real smile. The one she had forgotten she had until Marcus helped her find it again. I'm not alone anymore, she repeated. And she never would be again. Emma finished her drawing and held it up. It showed 3 figures standing together on a balcony, watching the sunset. A man, a woman, and a little girl. A family. What do you think? Emma asked. Victoria looked at the drawing, at the 3 figures holding hands, at the sun setting behind them, painting everything in gold. I think it's perfect, she said. Absolutely perfect. Emma beamed and added one final detail, a small tree in the corner of the drawing. A giving tree. A reminder of love that never stops giving even when it has nothing left. A reminder that the best things in life are not the things we build or own or control. They are the people we love, and the courage it takes to let them in. Victoria Sterling had spent 12 years building an empire on fear. It took one janitor, one little girl, and the memory of a woman she never met to teach her that the only thing worth building is love. And love, unlike empires, never falls. It only grows.